Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's Hive Live. We're going to be talking about why employee voice is so important during times of adversity. I'm your host Jack, but don't worry, you'll be getting all your insight from Tracey and Ericka from our people science team. Hi Tracey, hi Ericka, good to have you on the call.
Hi.
Hi, Jack.
Really looking forward to this next 20-25 minutes or so. Got a lot to talk about, very relevant for a lot of people at the moment. I think probably the first thing we can start with is just by going over what it is that we mean when we're talking about adversity and employee voice as well, just giving a couple of definitions so everyone knows kind of what we're talking about and what we're going to be hearing today.
So thanks for the intros there. Just if thinking about adversity and thinking about what's going on in the world today. We've had the pandemic, obviously, that's been like a huge piece of adversity. We've got a global cost of living crisis. We've got the war that's in Ukraine. So all of those things, like triangulate and do really keep that adversity in businesses. And I think looking to the future as well, there's talk that you hear on the news around recessions and if further increases in cost of living. So those are all things that are really going to make your workforce nervous and things that we need to think about as leaders in terms of how we help the workforce.
Yeah, totally. And I guess the other side of it is how employee voice, when deployed well, or what people might be missing out on, and kind of how that impacts that. Ericka, it'd be great if you could just give us a bit of a summary, just so we're all on the same page about kind of what employee voice, a loose definition. So just we're on the same page about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So employee voice can really mean everything under the umbrella of employee feedback and getting their thoughts and perspectives from employees across their whole life cycle, whether that's kind of recruitment, pre-boarding, all of the different stages, all the way to the exit interview, getting employees' feedback and thoughts and perspectives on the key issues that's impacting their day-to-day life and working life at that organisation.
So it's really kind of diving into that and kind of getting employees engaged, really reacting to their feedback, sharing their feedback with the business, and kind of that two-way situations. I suppose if we think about kind of the challenging times that businesses and everyone, let's face it, everyone's faced in recent years, and kind of the new economic ones that Tracey you mentioned that are kind of in the pipeline. Unfortunately, it seems. It'd be good to touch on how the benefits of having that employee voice. How can engaged employees? What difference are they going to be making to organisations when it's those challenging times? Tracey, maybe you'd like to kind of kick us off with that one.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, when you've got an engaged workforce, then you inevitably have better innovation. You have employees coming together, you have them collaborating more. So that drives really productivity and it drives the performance of the organisation as a whole. I think if you think about it, if they're customer facing, you have those people who are engaged, who are really brand ambassadors for the organisation. So that really resonates with their customers and that really gives their customers a sense of security, I guess, for want of a better term. I think when you've got an engaged workforce, you'll always have people who are willing to go like the extra mile. You'll always have employees who will just put their hand up and go, yep, I'll do that. I'll help out. I'll help support. So there's a number of real strong factors of like why employers should use the platform and should keep that engagement level there, because it really does drive overall business performance. And at these critical times, businesses really need that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something I saw recently around maybe the last time I went through kind of a maybe global economic crisis was around innovation, and it really kind of pinpointed those companies that continued to innovate and look for new ways of doing things, and invest in innovation as well. Kind of really, they weathered the storm well, and in the 5 years coming out the back of that grew exponentially. It was 30 times more faster and larger than companies that kind of put that safety first method in place. And as you two more than aware, that innovation kind of really starts from within, and kind of getting those engaged employees to offer up those ideas and give that feedback. Without those engaged employees, it's just going to be missing, and there's an opportunity that's just going to be missed out on, I suppose. I guess that kind of cycles into the next point, which is the differences between how employee voice can help a business manage the changes, the challenges that are coming with adversity well, and probably also just maybe pinpointing some of the areas that if the employee voice program isn't in place, where they're going to fall down. Ericka, maybe you've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we all know that 100% of all challenges that employees face day to day that knowledge sits with the employee rather than with senior leaders or with CEOs or exec members. So we really need to unlock that employee voice and really understand what are the challenges that they're experiencing at the moment, whether that's inside of work or outside of work, and how that organisation can actually support them going forward to maintain that productivity levels, but also just have an investment and a care for their employee and their well-being levels in their performance and how they actually feel day to day at work, because we're all at work for the majority of time, 37, 40 hours a week. So making sure that time is as enjoyable as possible whilst hitting those metrics that you need to hit as organizations, whether it's KPIs, everything like that. There could be underlying issues that we need to think about. And we're only able to actually get to the heart of that if we ask employees their opinions and thoughts around that. So unlocking that with a platform, whether that's a secure platform or whether that's talking through one-to-ones with their employees. It's different ways of listening that we can tap into to support that going forward.
Yeah, Tracey, you got anything kind of extra to add to what Ericka's talked about there, or your thoughts?
No, I think Ericka's pretty much covered it. I think I just really resonate with you, Ericka, the importance of having some channels of communication, whether it be a platform, whether it be in that regular one-to-one, that reconnection point, the importance of knowing and understanding what is making your employees tick on a day-to-day basis is what is going to keep your organisation, performing as well as it can perform. And without that, and without asking your employees, you will never really get under the skin of what is impacting engagement or not engagement. And I think in times of adversity, it is critical that you really understand what is going on and try and help them as well as their business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that kind of leads really nicely into probably talking a bit more practically, perhaps, about how we've seen customers use Hive through certainly the past couple of years, how they're planning to use Hive in the next in the next round of surveys and next few months. People listening to this they're going to want to know and take away some actionable steps they can take in. Hopefully they're the Hive customers or looking to become a Hive customer. So it'd be great to get some examples and some thoughts on how people can use Hive, and it's not just surveys. Obviously you're touching on that in these next times where it's going to be a challenge. There's going to be change, whether it's the growth that people were hoping, or it's looking at how the business can be more efficient and effective. Tracey, maybe you can start us off with that one.
Yeah, sure. I think in terms of how they could use Hive, there's a number of different ways they can use it. And obviously, surveying, pulse surveys is one of the key things, but there's a number of other little tools in there which are really key things. So the reward and recognition and how you recognise and how that is resonated around the organisation. There's channels there in order to tap into people who want to raise things for you, who may not feel comfortable raising them on a one-to-one. We've got a really private space in which organisations and that people can use to do that. And I think it just builds the whole channel around that surveying strategy, and how that surveying strategy is really going to influence and drive business and people strategies going forward. So I think that is really the key thing for them, is like I said before, is to really get under the skin of what is impacting everybody's day-to-day life, what is really the most important factors. And the beauty of having either ourselves or a platform to do that is because you can understand it. And from the people science team, they really go that extra mile. So they really then get into the detail and really understand the things that are having the highest impact on those individuals. So we can really tailor that guidance back to them so they can focus on some key things in terms of, like I say, driving that business and driving those people strategies forward.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You touched on it before, and kind of the two-way comms side of things that we see customers using Hive for with Open Door and Messenger. Maybe Ericka, you might want to talk a bit more about that in terms of how that just helps with it not necessarily being the pulse surveys. It's that always on kind of feedback loop, I suppose. Yeah, it'd be great to hear a bit about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can kind of customize those open door categories that you can add into the platform, whether that's kind of new ideas for the office, how can we make it more appropriate now that we're working hybrid, or it could be something kind of flagging any concerns around what's happening at the moment, whether that is that they need some more support around financial well-being or anything like that. So it's really a safe space, and it's confidential for employees to add that into the feature there, and for the HRD or any person that's looking after that open door feature to actually then respond to that and actually have a conversation with an employee through a kind of one-way mirror. And so it's really a powerful tool to be able to open up a space and make sure that employees feel safe to ask these questions and safe to flag these issues, because sometimes they don't feel as safe in those, like Tracey said, in those one-to-one conversations, or want to raise something with their team. So it's really important to give employees different channels to actually talk to and raise issues with managers and with senior leaders as well. So it's a really nice way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose that feedback loop as well, in terms of giving that safe space for people to give their feedback, and then also keep that confidentiality and hear back from the leadership is really important when times are challenging, and it might be some tough conversations. It's not everyone's comfortable having challenging conversations, certainly face to face. Being able to do that confidentially and have the back and forth over a confidential messenger system seems to be like really important certainly these times where it's not all rosy.
Yeah, I know a number of customers that I've been working with, that is like a very important tool for them, and it's been very beneficial in these times. And like you say, it is that one-way mirror, so employees do have that sense of security and the confidentiality aspect to it. But it is a great way to just engage. And just touching back on Ericka's point, if I think of our organisation, we obviously use our own platform. We've built a specific area for our mental health kind of advisors. So they've got their own kind of closed off piece, and employees can link in with them if necessary. So it is, again, that private area where they can just have that conversation if need be. And that's really a valuable tool for both employees and employers, actually. So it's it works in a very holistic way.
Yeah, absolutely. Ericka, you mentioned there about kind of creating that safety. We spoke before this around kind of building, resilient teams using psychological safety. I know you've got kind of a little bit of information you'd like to share. I think this is probably a good place to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So like we were speaking before about crafting resilient teams and what it takes to actually build resilient teams. And that first step is ensuring that everybody is safe to actually speak up and be able to flag anything of concern as part of that resilient team. So having that relationship with not only their manager, but also with their team members, and ensuring that team dynamics and relationships is at a good level. So there's different areas around psychological safety, and it's not just there's research around it that it's not just a kind of topic that is either on or off. You don't just have psychological safety or you don't. So there's kind of stages to that. So there's been research around the different stages of psychological safety, and there's 4 different stages around that. And that includes inclusion safety, which is the first one, which is just making sure that everybody feels like they belong to the team, and making sure that they feel safe in that we've got learner safety, so making sure that they feel able to actually make mistakes. So something in terms of like developing and learning, in terms of the team able to actually feel like they can learn and make mistakes and learn from it and actually do something about that. Contributor safety, which is them actually feeling like they can speak up and contribute to the wider conversation. And then also challenger safety, which is the last one, which is thinking about how they can actually challenge the norm and making sure they feel like they can contribute new ideas and different ways of working that can support that organisation. So there's different levels, and it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you can be level 1 and then you have to work your way through until level 4. It does kind of work in a linear process, but you could one day be in level 1, but then cultivate that relationship with a team member and move that through. But different people can be at different levels, which is why that kind of team dynamics is really key in cultivating that resilient team. And I think that kind of stage of psychological safety is key for when you're in that time of adversity, because some people might want to speak up and be able to do that, or kind of talk around different ways of working or challenging different behaviors or anything like that might be impacting that team, but others might not feel that same way. So ensuring that you've got that relationship with your team as a manager to be able to hone that in and kind of enable that within your team is really important during this time. And if you have those different channels, whether that's a confidential channel, whether that's your one-to-ones, it definitely helps that along a little bit, because it does take a while to embed that trust and really understand how you work with different team members and things like that as well. So the different channels definitely helps with that process going on.
Yeah, absolutely. The last stage you mentioned, or the 4th stage there, you mentioned the challenger safety. I guess that kind of really talks back to, you know, one of the first points around, you know, organizations and people need to innovate, you know, at any time, but, you know, especially during the times where everything becomes a bit more contractor constricted, that, you know, people need to look for new ways of working. And yeah, without, you know, at least some people being at that stage, it's going to be really hard, I guess, for those organizations to bring that innovation out from within. And yeah, just kind of really highlights the point around, you know, needing those engaged employees, looking at the results that they're going to give beyond the short term, I suppose. And it's always a very tricky one to cover off. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add on that, Tracey. If not, there's kind of a couple of other things to cover.
No, I think Ericka's actually summed that up really beautifully, to be fair. So and covered the 4 areas, and you know, in a nice way. So
great. Okay. Well, the next kind of point was around, you know, we're talking about times of adversity, and, you know, rightly, people and businesses, you know, have a big focus on investment, where that's going within their business, making sure it's, you know, it's securing things up, it's paving its way for innovation and growth. And we've talked about innovation a little bit, but, you know, let's just ask the question outright and talk about that. You know, why would businesses be minded to invest in employee voice platform and services rather than yeah, like hiring someone in and getting them up to speed? You know, what's the type of things that our customers are seeing, what we, you know, those conversations that we're having? Tracey, maybe you can kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, you know, in times of adversity, budget constraints are always there. The budget controls are always there. So you need to get the maximum return on investment for anything that you do. A platform serves all your employee base. So if you've got a platform in place that's serving them all, And I think the value of having something like that in, like you talked about, it aids and influences that safety element. It aids and influences that, you know, two-way conversation, the confidentiality aspects there, and you can tap into a number of things that you can in there. It also helps you extract and get the data and understand what employees are really thinking. So if you look at that versus maybe he's just going through a hiring process, the value that you're going to get organizational led from a platform to hear employee voice versus just maybe he's doing some kind of one-off things is going to be tenfold impactful than it would anything else. And like I say, you know, it's sitting right across your organization. It's available. It's all on time available to everybody. So you've got access to that. You've got that information coming through right at the tip of your fingers if necessary. So you can actively respond and get onto it and deal with things very quickly. And I think it almost empowers your individuals too. So it builds on that, you know, that safety element as Ericka talked around. It builds on the challenger safety. It gives them a voice. It gives them a platform to be able to do things. And I think that just really cements what organizations should be thinking about and looking to do to get that return on investment from that level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, you know, perhaps, you know, I framed that as looking at an employee voice platform. If we were thinking about kind of the Hive offering, which is the platform and, you know, and the people science, there's so much more we can offer businesses at this time. Maybe,
yeah.
And Tracey, you want to kind of talk about that, because you know, that's where we see our customers getting that real value.
Yeah. I mean, that is, you know, the platform is one thing and it's a fantastic tool, but equally is the additional value add you get on top of that, you know, tool, which is the people science team who really bring to life that information, and it's really data led, it's completely insightful, so it's tailored, it's targeted, and it really hones in, as I mentioned earlier, the things that are really having the most impact on employees. So, you know, the information we get there, we break it down into themes. So employers are really focusing on a few short things that are really going to drive engagement faster and quicker for their organization. And we're giving them the advice and guidance around, here's the themes, here's some of your action points, here's what you look at, here's some suggestions in terms of how you can do it. So we're not just leaving them, well, here's your themes, we're actually giving them that add-on about suggestions about what they can do and how they tailor that and drive that. And we've got some brilliant customer examples of where, you know, our advice is gone out there, the organizations has worked on it, and then they've redone their surveys or they've redone a pulse survey, and they've really seen how their organization has completely shifted in terms of the scores, their engagement, and the sentiment that employees then feel and share with the business, because they've actively taken on board and listened to what they were saying that was affecting them the most.
Yeah, and you talk about kind of customer examples. I know Travel Lodges, you know, kind of, we've recently worked on a case study with them, and yeah, their kind of employee NPS scores, you know, went sky high. The employee turnover dropped, you know, after kind of surveying and then working with the people science team to kind of pick out the insight, put those actions in place. So recent example that came to mind there when you mentioned customers.
And there's a number of things in terms of when you do that, you know, there's a number of again, in times of adversity, there's I'm seeing in terms of the customers, there's a lot of organizations coming together. So there's mergers, acquisitions all going on. So you're then trying to kind of feed two different types of businesses, you know, into one. So really the power of employee voice in that sense, it really comes to life because we really understand what is going on and what is impacting them the most.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a little bit of an eye on time, but I just guess before we sign off, just wonder if there's any last bits of tips or advice that you're going to give to people looking, you know, we talked about it's going to be a key phrase. It's times of adversity, it's challenging times. What should people be looking at in the immediate future? What can they do to kind of really guide what their strategy is going to be? Ericka, maybe you were sat out the last one. Maybe you could.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes back to actually just listening to their employees. What does good look like for them? And that's a big thing that we do in the people science team, is understanding their strategy and aligning that to their people strategy, and how that might change because of all the changes that are happening in the world and everything that's impacting their day-to-day work. So ensuring that we can align that to their people strategy, or to their kind of vision, their mission, and the values, and ensuring that that's kind of aligned throughout their work, and also kind of changing that, or supporting the change to the mindset across the organization, that employee experience isn't just an HR job. It is something that should be across the different levels, so from execs, senior leaders, managers, and employees as well. So helping them get to that stage, and is supporting managers to have those conversations with their teams and share that accountability to ensure that, you know, we are getting their feedback, we are getting that engagement in the surveys or in those one-to-ones, and sharing that as well. So I think that's kind of a little bit of advice and support that we give our organizations in terms of the deliverables, but also just that kind of best practice support that we give ongoing. But there'll be lots of content around that kind of stuff on Hive Plus that we have as well. So there's lots of different blogs and videos and things like that around how to actually share that accountability, and how to change the mindset, because that's kind of the hardest part of understanding the importance of employee experience and employee voice in this changing world, and the fast-paced changing world. So being on the pulse of everything, but I definitely think that there's some tasks and actions that leaders can take from this, and making sure that, you know, you're modeling that behavior of being vulnerable and sharing that your thoughts and perspectives around what's happening at the moment, to open up that safe space for employees, and also what managers can do as well. But like I said, it's an everybody's situation here, but it's not just managers and leaders. It should be employees that also feed that back up.
Yeah, amazing. Tracey, anything you would add in for the last tip that we can give in this?
Last tip from me. I just want to reinforce the sentiment that Ericka shared. Engagement is everybody's responsibility. You know, so it's a bit like culture. It's everybody's responsibility. So as Ericka said, leaders and managers really role modeling those behaviours, and really thinking about your values and your competency frameworks, or anything that you may have, and really making sure that you live and breathe those in everyday life. And if you live and breathe them, chances are your employees will do the same.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much for time's absolutely flown by. Loads to digest there. I hope everyone watching has found that useful. I'm sure you have. So yeah, all that's left for me to say thank you to Tracey and Ericka. Thank you both for joining, and yeah, we hope to see you all soon. Bye now.